Good morning, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, and this is your AM update.
We knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties.
Trump administration officials defending the strikes against Iran amid mounting scrutiny over the scope and point of the operation. President Trump recognizing 3 American service members with Medals of Honor in a White House ceremony. A Virginia woman followed off a bus by an illegal immigrant, then stabbed to death, the suspect with a long rap sheet.
Your campaign slogan is, believe in something again.
And Kennedy heir Jack Schlossberg defends his deeply disturbed social media antics amid a crowded congressional field in New York. All that and more coming up in just a moment on your AM Update. It's time for a little spring cleaning, and here's a place to start. Go drag your old dated wireless contract out of the closet and beat it with a broom. The freshen things up approach is coming to you, and you need it. You need it, I need it, and the American people need it, and it's brought to you this spring by Pure Talk, who gives you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month with no contract, no cancellation fees, and no overseas customer service. If you ever need help, you're going to be talking to a real live American based here. Maybe you will like them as much as Lois. Lois wrote, quote, switched to Pure Talk a few years ago. Amazing. Same coverage and clarity as Verizon or AT&T at a fraction of the price. Award-winning customer service, just upgraded to an iPhone 16e, and the support and deals were superb. Why anyone is still getting ripped off by the big guys is beyond me, writes Lois. Right on, Lois. Want to make the switch? Dial pound 250 and just say Megyn Kelly and switch to Pure Talk. Dial pound 250, say Megyn Kelly, and you will also save 50% off your first month. You're going to love them. Yesterday afternoon, CENTCOM, the military central command overseeing U.S. operations in the Middle East, confirming 2 more U.S. service members killed in action amid the U.S. strikes on Iran, bringing the total to 6 American deaths so far. The bodies of the 2 service members recovered from a facility struck by Iranian forces reportedly in Kuwait. President Trump previously warning that more casualties are likely. Amid mounting questions about why President Trump decided to authorize the strike, Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday on the Hill, arguing it was, as the MK Show reported yesterday, because of Israel.
It was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
The secretary then pressed directly on whether Israel's planned strike forced the U.S. into the conflict, Mr. Rubio instead casting the decision as part of a broader calculation about Iran's expanding military capabilities.
No, first, well, let me 2 things I would say. Number 1 is, no matter what, ultimately this operation needed to happen. That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could do anything about it because they could hold the whole world hostage. Look at the damage they're doing now. And this is a weakened Iran. Imagine a year from now. So that had to happen. Obviously, we were aware of Israeli intentions and understood what that would mean for us, and we had to be prepared to act as a result of it. But this had to happen no matter what.
Meanwhile, reporting from the New York Times shining light on the months of behind-the-scenes buildup leading to President Trump ultimately signing off on the attack. U.S. negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner struggling to secure a no-enrichment agreement from the Iranians in nuclear talks, even proposing U.S.-provided free nuclear fuel for a domestic energy program. The Iranians rebuffing the offer, leading Witkoff and Kushner to advise President Trump that a deal could not likely be reached. All of it unfolding as the Pentagon rapidly built up forces in the region, deploying 2 aircraft carriers, fighter jets, and other military assets. For months, the Times reports, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urging President Trump to hit Iran, weakened by the U.S. strikes against its nuclear program last June. Few members of Mr. Trump's inner circle voicing opposition to military action, according to the Times. In a mid-February meeting in the Situation Room, Top officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and General Dan Raisin Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, discussing military plans. General Kane reportedly offering up multiple options, from a smaller, limited strike to a campaign to topple Iran's government. The general advising that all options would be difficult, and toppling the government carried high risk of American casualties and of destabilizing the region. Vice President J.D. Vance, who the Times characterizes as personally leaning against military attacks, arguing that if strikes were to happen, limiting them was not the way, instead saying that if the U.S. acts, it should, quote, go big and fast. The Times reporting that in the days after that meeting, internal discussion increasingly centered on a joint U.S.-Israeli operation aiming not just at military sites, but the regime's top leadership. CENTCOM stating yesterday that U.S. forces sunk 11 Iranian Navy ships in the Gulf of Oman. President Trump telling CNN on Monday the, quote, big wave has yet to begin. CNN's Jim Sciutto reporting last night the U.S. is preparing for a, quote, major uptick over the next 24 hours. President Trump hosting a Medal of Honor ceremony at the White House yesterday, honoring 3 American service members whose acts of extraordinary courage spanned 3 generations of war: World War II, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. The Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration, awarded to members of the U.S. Armed Forces distinguishing themselves through acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty, risking their own lives in combat against enemy forces. The first honoree, the late Army Master Sergeant Roddy Edmonds of Knoxville, Tennessee. Edmonds enlisting in the Army in 1941, rising through the ranks, his unit overrun in 1944 by Nazi forces during the Battle of the Bulge. After marching for days through bitter cold winter, Edmonds and his 1,200-soldier unit arriving at a German prisoner of war camp. On July 26, 1945, a Nazi officer ordering that only American Jewish soldiers were to report for roll call the following morning, warning that all who disobeyed the order would be executed. President Trump describing what happened next.
There were more than 200 Jewish American soldiers in the camp, and Roddy knew their separation from the group would mean certain death. So that night he summoned his team and devised a plan. The next morning, all 1,200 American men fell in line together, shoulder to shoulder. Enraged, the Nazi commandant rushed forward, drew his Luger pistol, and pressed the barrel between Sergeant Edmonds' eyes. He barked at Roddy. "They cannot all be Jews," he screamed. Sergeant Edmonds replied fearlessly, "We are all Jews here." The Nazi officer lowered his weapon and the soldiers erupted in cheers. With total disregard for his own life, Roddy had saved over 200 of his fellow service members. Their camp was liberated 2 months later.
Edmonds passing away in 1985 at age 65, his son Chris accepting the honor on his father's behalf. The second recipient, Army Command Sergeant Major Terry Richardson, who was present with Mr. Trump at the White House on Monday, honored for his actions during the Vietnam War. On September 12, 1968, Richardson and Alpha Company tasked with securing a hill behind enemy lines, unaware the terrain contained about 300 enemy bunkers, with forces vastly outnumbering them. As his platoon came under intense machine gun and grenade fire, Richardson repeatedly rescuing wounded soldiers. President Trump recounting Richardson's actions.
Where he spent the next 8 hours calling in tactical strikes completely exposed. An hour in, an enemy sniper shot rang out and the bullet tore through his right leg violently. He was in bad shape, but Terry disregarded that and pushed through. And after 7 more hours of calling in American fire from above, the enemy retreated. Later that day, his team found him with both eardrums totally ruptured and a mangled right leg and foot, but still barely living, but living nevertheless. Due to Terry's actions above and beyond the call of duty, 82 men, Alpha Company, survived this battle.
The final Medal of Honor presented to the parents of the late Army Staff Sergeant Michael Ollis for his heroism in Afghanistan. On August 28, 2013, an insurgent launching an attack on Aulis's base involving a car bomb followed by armed enemies wearing suicide vests. Aulis, without any armor, carrying only a rifle, sweeping through a building to check for casualties, locating a Polish coalition forces officer, the two soldiers moving toward enemy fire. President Trump detailing Aulis's final moments.
At one point, shrapnel ripped through the Polish soldier's legs, rendering him unable to walk, very, very severely hurt. In that chaos of gunfire, explosions, and charred human remains, a terrorist insurgent appeared, rounding a corner with his suicide vest, fully armed, and you could see it. It was going to happen. He charged the wounded Polish soldier without hesitation. Michael raised his gun and forced himself between the insurgent and the man he just met, shielding him with his own body. And at perhaps his final heartbeat, Michael fired his weapon, and the terrorist detonated his vest simultaneously. Staff Sergeant Aulis was killed just weeks before his 25th birthday, and nobody was any more brave than that. In his final act on earth, Michael absorbed the blast, sparing the life of that Polish warrior.
The Polish officer, who later named his son Michael in Aulis's honor, speaking during the ceremony, thanking Aulis for his sacrifice, saying, quote, "I will see you in our heavenly homeland." Coming up, a Virginia woman brutally stabbed to death at a bus stop by an illegal immigrant with a long rap sheet. And Kennedy heir Jack Schlossberg defends his social media vicious, deranged rants as he attempts to carve his path in a crowded congressional primary race. Our sponsor, the Electronic Payments Coalition, says Washington politicians are always getting in your wallet, and now they're messing with your credit card. They say your credit card and the security it offers are under attack, and that Senators Dick Durbin and Roger Marshall want to change the nation's payment system to benefit corporate megastores like Walmart and Target at the expense of everyday Americans. Credit cards can keep your payments secure and provide rewards that families use to help make everyday purchases more affordable. The Electronic Payments Coalition says the Durbin-Marshall mandates would let corporate megastores cut corners on credit card processing, routing transactions over cheaper, untested networks with weaker security and fewer protections. Find out more at guardyourcard.com and consider telling Congress to guard your card. A Virginia woman fatally stabbed by an illegal immigrant who's now been revealed to have a shocking criminal history, including more than 30 arrests. On February 23rd, authorities responding to a 911 call from a community member about a woman found at a bus stop along Richmond Highway in Fairfax County, Virginia. Here, Fairfax County Police Captain Chris Cosgriff.
Detectives believe that the adult female arrived to the bus stop between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Officers responded to a call for service shortly after 7 p.m. and discovered her inside of the bus stop suffering from trauma to her upper body. The officers rendered aid. However, she was pronounced deceased at the scene.
The victim later identified as 41-year-old Stephanie Minter of Fredericksburg. Investigators determining through interviews and surveillance video that 32-year-old Abdul Jallo was the last person seen with Minter, the two exiting the bus at the same time shortly before the attack. The following day, a liquor store employee calling 911 to report Jallo for shoplifting. Authorities initially charging him with petite larceny, detectives later connecting him to Minter's death, charging Jallo with second-degree murder. Police say Jallo has no fixed address and is currently being held without bond. According to DHS, Jallo illegally entered the U.S. from Sierra Leone on the west coast of Africa in 2012, an immigration judge issuing a final order of removal in 2020, determining he could still be deported to any country but Sierra Leone, raising the question, what on earth was he still doing here? The Center for Immigration Studies reporting last year that Fairfax County is among the least cooperative jurisdictions when it comes to ICE detainer requests, declining to honor more than 1,150 requests over a 2.5-year period. Since arriving in the U.S., Jallo arrested again and again on charges including rape, malicious wounding, assault, drug possession, identity theft, trespassing, larceny, and more. Fox 5 DC reporting prosecutors dropped the charges in many of those cases. DHS now calling on Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger, a Democrat, to, quote, commit to not releasing this murderer and violent career criminal from their jail without notifying ICE first. Jallow has not yet entered a plea. He is due in court May 13th. Stephanie Minter described in her obituary as, quote, a beam of light in dark places, is survived by her mother, son, and a large extended family. Jack Schlossberg, the only grandson of President John F. Kennedy, defending his deeply disturbed social media posts as he attempts to garner support in his middling congressional campaign. Schlossberg, running for New York's 12th congressional district, currently represented by 78-year-old Democrat Congressman Jerry Nadler, who is retiring at the end of this term. Schlossberg announcing his candidacy last year, bringing limited professional experience, including a 1-month stint at Vogue magazine, where he produced just 7 articles, among them a transcript of his own speech at the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Schlossberg leaning heavily into social media provocation to generate interest and raise his profile, and also apparently to raise suspicions that he is mentally ill. Though he has since deleted his accounts, he could be seen offering multiple Nazi salutes, musing about Jew blood, and 4 ounces of semen for a so-called Maha energy ball. He once thanked Elon Musk for, quote, letting China eat out your, shall we say, backside while you piss on the Constitution. Charming. Another time, he asked followers to vote on who was hotter, his own grandmother, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, or Second Lady Usha Vance, whose child he jokingly claimed to have fathered. A laugh riot, isn't he? Perhaps his favorite target has been his own cousin, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., posting a video in January 2025 mocking RFK's degenerative voice condition.
Hey, everybody, I'm trying to figure out the right present to get Donald Trump for the inauguration, so I found a really rare animal and killed it, and I'm going to give it to him.
CBS questioning Schlossberg Sunday about his approach to social media, including the suggestion that he fathered one of Usha Vance's children.
The joke being that you and she had a love child. Now, she's not elected. Is that crossing a line?
I think what's crossing a line is the propaganda that we see issued every single day by the White House and Vance.
Well, we know you think that.
Right, so what are we going to do? Hold back on our sense of humor and not tease them, make fun of them back? My grandmother wasn't elected. My Uncle John wasn't elected. People feel absolute free reign to say whatever they want about them. So I'm going to throw it right back at you because you know what? The time is not now to hold back. Sit on your hands and say, okay, well, why don't we just play it safe? Absolutely not. We got to get these people out of here.
Schlossberg's cousin, Kick Kennedy, telling the New York Post she hopes that Schlossberg, quote, gets the help he needs. His own mother, Caroline Kennedy, who has given some money toward his campaign, has also reportedly said she does not want him to run. Gee, can you guess why? No public polling currently exists in this race, with 9 Democrats competing to replace Mr. Nadler, the outgoing congressman endorsing his former aide, New York State Assemblyman Mika Lasher, last month. Lasher also securing backing from several other prominent New York Democrats. Schlossberg, by contrast, lacking in significant local endorsements so far, though receiving some support from former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, SNL creator Lorne Michaels, and actress Bette Midler among early donors. Schlossberg now attempting to rally voters with this bold vision.
Your campaign slogan is?
Believe in something again.
What do you mean?
Well, believe in something again. America is turning 250 years old this year. I'm a spiritual guy. I think it's coming at this moment for a reason.
From ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, to believe in something, anything, or something. The primary is set for June 23rd. And that'll do it for your AM update. I'm Megyn Kelly. Join me back here for the MK Show, live on SiriusXM's The Megyn Kelly Channel, 111 at noon East, on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, and on all podcast platforms.